Barbell Junction.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Barbell Junction. This episode is episode 14. Our guest for today is the special Mr. Andy Howard.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for having me on your show. It's a great pleasure to be here.
So, what did you tell us a little bit about yourself? There's people that probably have seen you in meets, because this white guy like in the back wearing this sharply dressed. At least that was my first reaction. And then, so what did you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into like the powerlifting scene in Malaysia?
Okay, I'm British. I started powerlifting in 2002 in Essex in the UK. I started doing all three lifts. I just happened to go to a gym where they did powerlifting and powerlifting competitions. I was blown away by what I saw. It was incredible. Some of the sites where I saw girls lifting heavy weights, older people lifting heavy weights. I thought that's something I really want to get into. I competed in all three for about 6 years. Got to a good standard. I came third in the British unequipped, and I was ranked top 5 in the British equipped at under 90 as it was in those days with the IPF. Unfortunately, in 2007, I suffered a serious back injury. I never really recovered from it. I think in 2002, before YouTube, we used to just lift, and it was all about as much weight as we could possibly lift. We didn't stop to really concentrate on technique like people do nowadays. And I don't think my technique was particularly good, especially with the deadlifts. And I think eventually it caught up with me. And in 2007, the ligaments in my lower spine went. Sadly, they didn't recover. So I had to make a decision. I still wanted to stay in powerlifting, but I couldn't deadlift heavy. So I thought, luckily, there was bench press only competitions. I dropped a weight class, got down to what became under 83 kgs, and then ever since about 2007, competed bench only.
So, in 2002 when you started, I'm curious because you said because you didn't have YouTube. So, how did everybody in the UK, how did they do powerlifting? And how big was powerlifting back then?
Powerlifting then was all about equipped.
Equipped, yeah.
Unequipped was very small and almost a sideline. If you wanted to get into powerlifting, you automatically went to equipped powerlifting. Because of the money issue, Titan at that time, the sponsors drove the sport, so they wanted you to buy as much equipment as possible. So that's how they made their money. So the unequipped was a very small sideline. The YouTube thing was, and I'm sure there were people perfecting their technique, but when I look at young Malaysian lifters, I'm always amazed and impressed by how good their technique is, because they're always videoing themselves, they're always looking at their body positions, and that's such a more important part of the sport nowadays. I just think when we started, it was just about trying to lift more and more every time, and I think that model of powerlifting is not sustainable, where you think, God, I've got to get in there, get a PB, I've got to get a PB, I've got to get a PB. I think now young lifters that I see are much more aware that sometimes you need to step back from your training, you need to deload, you need to do lighter sessions, you need to do technique sessions. Also, I see a lot of Malaysian lifters, young lifters, doing a lot of band work, especially with their hips and lower back, getting structural integrity of their bodies first, and then applying the weight second. And I think this is absolutely crucial if you want longevity in this sport.
Definitely.
You must concentrate on the physiological approach to your lifting.
So there weren't any philosophies, lifting philosophies that you subscribed to back in the day?
No, they were around. I mean, but we didn't. Maybe it was just the gym I went to. I don't know. Maybe it's just my mindset. But we didn't concentrate on technique enough. For us, it was just lift more, lift more, lift more. and that model you can't keep forever.
Was it still IPF when you were competing back in the UK?
Yeah, it was IPF. It was called BALA then, British Association of Weightlifting, but it was powerlifting as you know it now. There was very little difference then in regard rules and so forth.
What were they, like an IPF affiliated fed?
Yeah.
Or okay?
Yeah.
So now they are the GBPF.
Yeah, it just changed the name, but
okay.
The sport fundamentally hasn't changed since I started. So.
Cool. And who were like some of the powerlifting greats of the UK at that time?
Andy.
One of them among them.
Well, there's some actually longevity. There's some masters, and when I say masters, I mean lifters over 40, over 50, over 60. There's some still going now who were
already good back then.
Yeah, who were good then, and they're still going. Sometimes I look at powerlifting. My philosophy is, I really admire the people who carry on doing it. I've seen a lot of brilliant lifters, young, and then they fall away. And I've seen other lifters. There's one guy in Britain called Kevin Jane, under 93 lifter. I think he's Masters 3 now, 60 to 70. He holds world records, and I remember meeting him years ago, and to think that he's still doing it, still putting the work in, still getting the results. I think for me they're my biggest heroes, the people who can carry on doing it right through.
So there were some some group of lifters doing things right. It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't
going in. Maybe it's just me and my gym. No YouTube is my excuse.
No, I was just curious how when people actually knew. I mean, I guess it probably wasn't like 100% optimal, at least compared to now, but it was probably along the right lines.
Yeah, and I do look at. I sometimes go back. It's a great thing about powerlifting is you can look at stats and you can go back and check names, and it's quite a geeky sport in that respect. Quite, and a lot of the people I did lift with have since gone. So the people who've stayed, I think they've got that structural, physical integrity that's kept them going. I think a lot of other people not just get injured, but I think that their technique limitations mean that they can only go so far in the sport, and then they plateau. And powerlifting often is a great sport early on because you make a lot of gains relatively quickly, I think, and then inevitably everybody hits plateaus. And I think that's when the real relationship with the sport starts, where you're not making gains, where 2.5 kilograms in a year in a bench press is a huge
win,
gain. And I think then if you can stick with it then and challenge yourself, that's when powerlifting stops being just a sport and a competition but becomes a way of life. I'm 50 now, and I think that the bench pressing is now, it's a hobby that's part of my life, because to make gains in bench pressing now, I have to be physically fit. So the bench pressing is just the start of everything else. It means that to compete, I have to be at a certain weight, so my diet has to be better. You'll know this, that to make bench gains, it's not just about pumping reps, it's about how you set your body up. And to be able to set your body up correctly, you must have good flexibility. And so nowadays I spend a lot more of my training sessions on warming up procedures, and in trying to actually improve my flexibility PBs before I then go to the actual weights.
So how has your training changed since 2002 until now? And what was the point where you realized that okay, I think now I need to work more on my technique than anything else?
It's trial and error, usually injury and error. but now I am I don't even call it warming up anymore, because I think sometimes it's the wrong expression for it. It's about testing your flexibility as part of your training. So my flexibility training can be 30, 40 minutes and can actually match my lifting, but the two are equally important. Whereas before, philosophically, I would say, oh, it's the warm-up to get you started to do the weights.
Which is just like 10 minutes max, right?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, in the early days, it was like, it was terrible.
A few arm swings, and we were going to go.
A quick cigarette, get out of the car and get going. But those days have changed completely, and now more and more, the two are interlinked, so that the flexibility work, the band work, the trying to get your body in a good, solid position, the integrity of it is just as important as the lifting of the weights. And almost now what I do is, when I'm training, I keep with the flexibility. So between sets, even if I'm going heavy on the bench, between sets I'm still using bands to keep practicing body positions, and getting everything right and getting everything stable, and also making sure that when I recover after a training session, I'm not recovering from kind of soreness that's bad for you soreness, you know, lower back soreness. I don't, you know, obviously a bit of muscle soreness is good and is a byproduct, but I think if you're coming out of your lifting sessions and suffering
the pain,
internal deep pain, that's not good. I mean, I think that's your body telling you that there's something not quite right there. You need to go back to your technique, you know. So that kind of no pain, no gain philosophy, you just got to be careful with that in powerlifting, because actually some pain signals are signals that you're actually getting it a little bit wrong, and you need to go back to your flexibility and work on that. And sometimes not worry about the PBs and the heavy weights. Keep with the flexible side of things. And young Malaysian powerlifters, I think, are very good at this. I see it in this gym. I've seen it in the Outlaw gym and other Malaysian gyms where you've got serious powerlifters, and the technique and the attention to that detail, that flexibility is very good, and it's very encouraging for the future. I think I look at them and think, if you persevere with that kind of philosophy and that kind of technique, then you can have a long future in this sport. Because the great thing about powerlifting is you can do it into your 60s, 70s, 80s. At the recent World Bench, I was looking at people in their 70s and 80s benching very good weights with very good technique. This is a sport that you can do
forever,
for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had a coach, or it's just all self-taught and then YouTube?
When it came about, finally came about.
I do. I currently have a friend called Masa. He's Japanese, but he lives in Hong Kong and also competes for Hong Kong. He does all three, but he's fundamentally an equipped bench press specialist, and he's been giving me kind of online advice and coaching. I've never had anybody professional, or I've never actually kind of worked with a coach in a gym, just because of my circumstance of living in different places in the world. But he's my go-to guy if I'm struggling or I need help. He's a very good lifter. He's kind of top 10 in open in the world. So his name's Massa. So I'll get help from him online.
Okay, so this is just like casual consultation. It's not like he writes you up a program for 6 weeks or whatever, you know?
No, I've seen it because IPF have a new sponsor called I forget the name of it.
Uplift.
That's the one.
Yeah.
I've seen that, so I think it's growing because they're a big sponsor of the IPF, and I saw their logo everywhere. So I think if you are starting in the sport, you can go online and get help. But at the moment,
is that what they do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I had a quick look. You can you go on and you kind of input what your plans are, what your goals are. Not just powerlifting. I think it's bodybuilding, everything. They find a coach for you, and then that coach will train you online.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not they have a set team of coaches working for Uplift.
Yeah,
Is this a platform? Is it?
Yeah, it's a platform. I think you as a coach, you apply to be on the platform.
Okay.
And then they
Cool.
will
Oh,
match.
that's cool, that's cool.
Yeah, they'll match you up depending on what your needs are. It's not specific to powerlifting. I think it's for fitness, for bodybuilding, for
Okay.
for everything. Yeah.
Uber for powerlifting.
Worth a look.
Huh?
Uber for fitness.
Well, yeah, for fitness.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool to have that.
Yeah, they're big new sponsors, so we can find it somewhere. But that I'm pretty sure that the name you said is the right.
Yeah, because I keep seeing that new logo as well.
Yeah.
I mean, alongside Elico, of course.
Yes.
I think we have some of it here.
I think there were. I mean, that logo was in the Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, during the Worlds. I think I
Yeah.
saw it a few times.
Yeah. Just because we're on that subject, I mean, can I do a shameless plug for this place?
Yeah, for sure. Nothing shameless. Yeah.
I've been training in a very good gym in Equin Park, but it's not a powerlifting specific gym. About 3 months before the World Bench Finals, made a commitment to come here to use the same equipment that I was going to find in the competition, and I think that is the single biggest factor for me smashing a personal best. Having been doing the sport 18 years, I came here and the conditions are right for powerlifting. So another thing about powerlifting is if you're in Malaysia and you want to get good at powerlifting, you need to come to a place like this where you've got the best equipment and people who know about powerlifting. Powerlifting is a technical sport, and there's some old sayings that no one cares what you do in the gym, it's what you do on the platform. And to maximize your potential, you need to come and train on the kind of platforms and equipment that you're going to be using. I've seen so many lifters worldwide who are good in a gym where everything's slightly different.
Yeah.
But until you practice with the right equipment, you're not quite being honest with yourself, because platform lifting, powerlifting lifting is different from gym lifting.
Definitely, yeah.
The conditions are very different. You all know what I'm saying. You've all competed. So it was one of the first times I overperformed in competition considerably.
Because if you didn't even touch anything close to that during the training at all, right?
No, I got close to it here in the training, but 2 months before, when I was training in a normal gym, I was getting 180, and it was only here in the last 2 months that it changed considerably. And then I was able to take those gym gains into competition because the equipment and the conditions here were the same. Exactly the same as they were in the world.
Yeah, and this is especially true for the bench press, because for the most part you're sort of like limited or dictated by the equipment you're using. So like the width of the bench, the height of the bench, and even the racks. Like in commercial gyms they might have like fixed hooks.
There's a hook rack. Yeah.
So you have to, the way you unrack it, that changes your position. It changes everything. Everything.
I mean, it's interesting with Malaysian powerlifting because it's still very much the three lifts: the squat, the bench, the deadlift. When you become a specialized bencher, it's even more technical. The bench is the most technical of the three lifts. And there's so many different modifications that you need to do to maximize your benching potential. And I think also, although many Malaysian powerlifters don't consider it, I think if they stay in the sport, hopefully it doesn't happen, but bench pressing is a more manageable sport as you get older for many people, because the squat and the deadlift have more demands on your central nervous system.
Definitely.
You tend also, forgive me for saying this, but I always found that to be good at the three lifts, you're better being heavier.
Yeah.
To deadlift heavy, I think your body tells you to lift heavy. I remember I was always best and strongest doing all 3 lifts when I was 90 plus. But benching, you can go back, and I think you can be fitter because there's less demands on your body. You can be a lighter bencher.
But still pushing off heavy weights. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I just found I don't want to upset anybody, but to squat.
Too late.
This is not just your biases, right? This is genuine.
To squat big, to make gains on a squat, you want to be heavy around the hips and the belly and the butt and everything. Whereas benching, you can actually, for me, you can bench and you can be a little bit more holistic in your training. Yeah. You can concentrate a bit more on the kind of showy arms and stuff. And you can do it in commercial gyms. No one's going to get freaked out.
Unless it's me.
Yeah,
I'll probably get kicked out.
Yeah. You're different. I'll explain why you're different. But, once you start deadlifting in commercial gyms, people get a bit upset.
Oh, that's true.
Scared.
Yeah, if you haven't got a squat rack, safety, you should avoid squatting. It's a lot easier to get people to help you benching. So
that's true.
If you're traveling and you're going to commercial gyms, maybe your work takes you and you have to use hotel gyms, that kind of thing. I think just benching, it in many ways is easier. I think doing all 3 it can be tougher. And I think if you're going to maximize your gains, I would go a little bit heavier. If you're going to be all 3.
All 3. I mean, inevitably you're going to be heavier with doing all 3 because you're carrying all that mass in your legs, right?
Yeah.
So,
and there's a knock-on because people, if you're gaining to get mass on your thighs and your glutes, then your diet will naturally spill over into carb overload. So you will naturally, I always found you will put on weight everywhere because you are taking the gains from carb overloading. I think it's
I overload every day. Yeah.
That's why it's working for us.
I'm curious. How has your training changed since you
started?
Yeah, I mean, when you got your injury and then you move into benching, because you don't look to me like. How do you say it? Like disproportionate because you stopped squatting and deadlifting, right? So how do you do to keep in shape, overall in shape?
Do you still do runs, sprints and stuff like that?
No, I cracked my patella in half as a result of...
What's a patella?
It's the kneecap.
Okay.
So I don't want to scare anybody, but my kneecap cracked in half because of equipped squatting.
Right.
Was it during the actual lift?
No, actually, a few years later, it was wear and tear.
Sure.
What happened is my patella cracked open. I had to have half it removed and then it tied back on. So I don't jog, but what I do a lot of cycling.
Cycling, okay.
Okay.
So all my warm-up routines involve cycling at the beginning, and that just helps maintain some decent leg strength. I hate doing legs now. I won't lie, but I carried on squatting for a long time, and it just, I don't know. It just didn't. I didn't get that much out of it. I got a lot of aches and pains in my hip area. I found I was suffering as a result. So what I do now is I do leg press.
Okay.
In order to strengthen my bench press.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I just do some cycling and some leg press, just to keep that power. But obviously, I am disproportionate strength. If you're bench pressing regularly and not doing the same amount of legs, then there is some.
Yeah, there is some.
I mean, thank you very much, but there is some. I would love to still look like a proper powerlifter with big,
Yeah, but what
glutes.
is a proper powerlifter, right?
Massive glutes.
Massive glutes, massive glutes.
Massive glutes, massive quads.
Yeah.
I still subscribe to all that. So, the people who are doing 3 lifts carry on doing it because I think it creates a physique. I know you're doing it to lift more, but it creates a fantastic physique for men and women,
Yeah.
where you have that proper, powerful look that you can't beg, borrow, or steal. It's that big glutes, big quads, shows that you're a proper lifter. I can tell.
Okay, now I
instantly.
understand. So one of these guys have like really thick thighs.
Yeah, it's a no-nonsense look for me.
Okay.
But I can't do it in the same way. But funny enough, something I'm working on at the moment is glute activation.
Okay.
Again, I've changed my philosophy a lot in the last 6 months. We've been talking about it, and I've made the bench gains. And again, it's a good lesson that I wasn't making any progress. I was just doing the same old. And then I made a conscious decision to change, and I've changed my technique a lot. And part of that is glute activation. I used to see people doing it. What are they doing? What's that all about? But the more I get into it, the more I understand it. It helps the bench because it sets your glutes in tight, which you need in the bench pressing. You can't have anything not firing, and if you're not careful, your glutes aren't firing. But also then recovery. Again, with my age, I know you wanted me to talk about
Age.
age.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, I wanted to bring it in under my own terms.
Willingly, okay.
My age, I'm finding hip mobility is crucial. I mean, if someone 20 years ago said to me hip mobility, I wouldn't know what they're talking about. But now, if you can activate your glutes, use bands as part of your warm-up and part of your warm-down, it helps keep your hips mobile and healthy, which is very important. So that's something I've really just started doing very recently.
Do you find that also takes some of the stress out of your lower back?
Yeah, definitely. I'm now, absolutely. I had loads of problems with my lower back, and I think a lot of it was, I thought it was hamstring tightness.
Okay.
And part of it's hamstring tightness, but a lot of it comes from hips, and being aware of hip mobility and glute. This relatively, my latest term, glute activation, is not just working your glutes, but making sure they're firing at the right times. I think this is a massive part. That they're a big muscle, and I think they tie everything in. They need to be able to respond to demands of lifting. And that's benching, squatting, and deadlifting, all three. And I would encourage people, again, young Malaysian lifters are very good at this, but I would encourage you to focus on that, to keep that part of your body very flexible and very responsive to the demands that powerlifting creates.
Yeah.
So a good example of that is when you're benching is you take the bar out of the rack, you set everything, and it's so easy just to concentrate on your chest and your arms, but you need to set your back and your thighs. It all needs to be firing at the same time. True, and it's one of those things. It sounds easy, but as you know,
once you're doing it,
people forget. It's easy to forget. The bar comes out. You're focusing, and actually your focus almost tends to turn into the top third of your body. And the rest of it's kind of sailing in the wind a bit. So this for me has been the big revelation over the last 6 months.
Okay.
All right, let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back, and I want to talk to you about your experience in the bench, Wolves bench.
Am I talking too much?
No, it's okay. It's fine.
You've already said anything.
That's good.
So we'll be right back after this.
Hi guys, today we're gonna learn how to wear knee sleeves. Alright, so now what you can do is you can fold it in half. Get it in this way. Make sure you remember where the center of the knee sleeve is. Put your feet in. Get it through. Now pull up that thing the middle way until it's about where your kneecap is. And then pull the top over. And that's it. How's it, Brandon?
you buy nice, you don't need to buy twice. If you want to get a good pair of good knee sleeve, be sure to drop by at Zealfit.
Okay, we're back. So I think I just want to get back to the point where you mentioned something about when you were competing in Worlds.
You said you want me to talk training for old people.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. This all ties in. This all ties in. And then you felt like you were comfortable, familiar in the world stage because you were already practicing in the platform. What were you going to ask?
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to. I just wanted you to share your experience in the worlds and how you translated from your training all the way to the competition.
Again, a philosophical change in the last 6 months. Two things. Number one is for anybody who's going to compete or anybody who's competed a bit and wants to carry on competing in Malaysia, then protocols is extremely important. I've seen so many lifters underachieve because they behave in one way in the gym and then out on the platform they get a bit lost. And what I mean by that is it's a technical sport. So back to this gym, it's exactly the same equipment you're going to find in a competition. So what you can do is you can almost blank out everything else and go back to all those training sessions you've done with this equipment. One easy way of doing that is the Eleiko block or platform. Once you're on the platform, it's almost irrelevant where the platform is because the size and the everything is the same. So you can transplant that platform here into any setting. And if you do that psychologically, you are never overawed by the experience. The world bench in Tokyo was different to anything I'd ever come across. The scale of it, the audience, the lighting, the filming, everything. Now I think in previous times that would have overawed me and would have limited my performance because the external factors would have thrown me. Another more local example was recently the MAP did a competition, an excellent competition, in a shopping centre, D-Pulse in Putrajaya. Now, it was a great thing to do because you had passing interest from shoppers.
Free crowd.
And you had levels as well. So people who were relatively new to the sport, suddenly the crowds were like 300, 400 people. And I could see for some of them, because I was doing the judging as well, it just threw them. It freaked out because they were used to training in a certain way in a certain gym with certain people, helping them out a little bit. And it just changed. Now, if you can train on the platform, then anything external to that becomes irrelevant. And you actually just enjoy it. You see it as a bonus. So with a different mindset, if you come into that thinking everything's the same, it's the same setup, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. You look up, there's a big crowd and it's a bonus. But if you're not careful and you're nervous, it can throw you the other way. And that comes to kind of my second point about enjoyment of the sport. I think for a long time I had a philosophical approach where I was scared of failure and worried about my performance, whereas in the world bench I tried to change my philosophy, and that was I was going to enjoy it. I deserved to be there, I'd earned it, and I was going to enjoy it. And how I broke that down even further was weight, number one. I got underweight early and sustained it for 3 months. Then it came to the competition, I was not having to diet like crazy. Now I know people can do it and some swear by it, but I certainly don't. Get under your weight class for me, and then on the day you are not desperately dieting, because not only can it affect performance, but it affects your enjoyment of the sport. You know, I know others. I mean, I can mention. I mean, I know Kelvin. You know, he's an expert. He's a coach, and he's a very, very good powerlifter. And he dropped a lot of weight and still perform well. Okay, but for me, I never want to be doing that. I want to be well under. or not
Yeah.
well under, but on the limit. You lose a bit of weight on the day through nerves, so you can be right on the spot. And if the more days you are close to the weight, the less stressful it is for your body doing the competition. You can really enjoy yourself. And then also, you have a minute on that stage. Now, if it's just benching, it's 3 minutes. If it's all 3 lifts, you've got 9 minutes. They're your 9 minutes. Your 9 minutes to enjoy yourself, not to be scared. So go on there and use the minute. Set yourself up. Time yourself in the gym to see how long it takes. Use your 9 minutes. Don't be frightened by the time. In international competitions, there's a beep halfway through. I use that beep to say, it was my signal to say, are you enjoying yourself? And if I was still setting up, I was still enjoying myself. I was in command of the platform, not the other way around. And that is very important, because you see people who enjoy lifting in the gym, they come to the platform and they don't perform. They're under what they thought they'd get, and it's not very enjoyable. And then the other thing, am I talking too much?
No.
The other thing is, it's like 17 years of powerlifting. I just want to talk. The other thing is, weight selection is so important. No one cares about your opening lift.
Yeah.
Your opening lift is something you can do in the dark 3 times when the ref tells you it's wrong, when you have to re-rack it, all of those factors, and you can still do it. The second lift is your target. This is the lift you've been going for months. It's cemented down a week before the competition. You stick to it. Your coach sticks to it. And if you get that lift, it's successful. You've achieved. Then your third lift,
The pressure's off.
Pressure's off. You can play around with it. It can be a silly lift. Why not? It can be a get the feel lift. Why not? Or it could be for a medal, especially when it comes to the deadlifting. You know, it might be an all or nothing to get a bronze or to get a gold or whatever. And again, if you have that mindset and you're honest with yourself, then in that regard, then you should achieve and be happy with lifting, because it's a tough sport. It's an amateur sport. You pay for it yourself. You do it for the love of it. You spend many hours in the gym, so you need to enjoy that final experience, which is the competition. Because if you don't enjoy the competition, you're not going to keep it up, and the hobby of powerlifting becomes
like a chore or something.
unsustainable. Becomes a chore.
So for you, the competition is the motivation for you to keep on doing powerlifting.
If there was, that's a great question. If there was no powerlifting competition, I wouldn't even go to the gym. By nature, I'm a lazy person. I like to eat lots of chocolate. The competition keeps me honest. Everything works back from the competition. But in the past, that philosophy meant that, I did it all, but then the competition was just the thing at the end. It's only recently I've changed that again to make the competition the enjoyable bit as well.
Even though you might not get what you want in the competition, you just want to be in the competition for the experience itself? Or?
Yeah, I want to enjoy every minute. Regardless, I know you're going to have a better time if you lift more, of course you are. But but that's not always going to happen. You're going to have good days and bad days.
Yeah.
You've got to enjoy the competition itself slightly, irrespective of performance.
Okay.
You've got to, that's why it's philosophical, you've got to enjoy being on the platform. You've got that minute, it's yours, enjoy yourself. If you don't get the lift, okay, go back to training, see what went wrong, but don't beat yourself up about it, and think to yourself, there'll be another competition further on in the day.
So, are you one in competitions to, when you step out on the platform, do you like take in everything, like the crowd and stuff like that, or are you just like zoned into the bar and you just want to go out and lift immediately, or do you just take in everything, like experience, like be in the moment, stuff like that?
I think previously it's all got too much for me. I've put too much pressure on myself, too much desire for a certain weight, and then failing it and not being happy. I've changed recently, and the world's was the big test case where enjoy it, take the pressure off yourself, enjoy it for what it is.
How easy is it to make that change? Because I'm somebody who is always I always have a stage fright. If I go up on stage, I mean, there's butterflies in my stomach and more than that as well. But for you, the way you talk about it is like a change in just mindset.
Like a click
But
or something.
yeah, but like for me, it's not as easy, you know, because when you see a crowd, all eyes on you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nerve-wracking. I mean, how do you do it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say back to openers. Openers is very important, especially for someone with stage fright. So again, no one cares about your opener. So your opener is for you only. For the crowd, they don't care whether you're lifting 150 or 170. They just see someone lifting.
Yeah.
If you lift 150 really well, you will get stuff back from the crowd.
Right. The feedback, right?
Feedback's positive.
That feeds on your confidence too,
And
right?
you enjoy it. Then you come out for your 170, which is your target. Go low as possible for the opening weight, because
Just to build the confidence up.
just to build the confidence and get the feel of it, and go in and think, I'm going to enjoy this first lift because I know I can do it. I'm comfortable with it, and you get the nice feedback from the crowd, and that sets you up. I do see a lot of time people putting unnecessary pressure on themselves
Right.
by thinking, to look good, I've got to start on 170.
Okay.
Oh, I've been doing 170 in the gym, but someone's been helping you either side, or, you know, it's a false economy. You've been doing it when you were 95 kilograms, but you're coming into the competition at 93. So actually, 170 is a different ball game. Be honest with yourself, drop the weights, step up, and enjoy the experience.
Right.
Opener's very important if you get stage fright.
Yeah. I was wondering, Haris, do you face the same psychological stress, or you are also?
Or do you just bench?
Yeah, you're natural.
I think I have felt in some moments where I felt like I need to prove myself, I guess. Like, oh, no, if I open low, people think I'm not that strong, whatever, right? So I have that pressure to, no, I'm actually stronger than this. I'm going to open heavier. But now, I think like you said, no one knows like what you've been lifting in the gym or what you're normally capable of. It's probably better in their eyes to see like a well-executed lift as opposed to you opening heavier or the heaviest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think recently, like this year is where I've really, trying to enjoy the whole process in general, like the training and even the competitions. Like even in the warm-up areas, I'm not like so, like just headphones on, like just to myself. I'm just going around talking to people, like helping people like load up plates or whatever, sharing the warm-up bar.
And my 6 weeks program.
That's right. Yeah.
While you're loading the bar.
Yeah, and this is marketing my program. But yeah, I'm trying to shift to that perspective now. Just trying to enjoy the competitions more and just take some pressure off of myself. But yeah, I can totally relate to you wanting to prove people that you're actually capable of more, especially when you're like up there. If you're like one of the top lifters and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think also powerlifting, bench pressing, it's a very honest sport. It finds you out a little bit. You've got to be honest with yourself about your capabilities. It's this big thing back to the weight thing. If you're competing at 74, you've been lifting for 77, 78.
Yeah.
You're going to be a different person if you've had to suddenly drop the weight. So you've got to modify. And I think that's one of the beauties of powerlifting is it is such an honest internal thing. The platform will find where you really are.
That's true.
People, you see in commercial gyms, everybody's getting help lifting. And I think powerlifting breeds honesty. And one thing linked to that is I've stopped asking. I always used to get people to take the
Lift off
for me when I was training. I've stopped all that now because I want it to be all, not in competition, but when I'm training, I want it to be all my own work, everything.
Keeps it consistent, right?
Yeah, and I've now, so I squat a bench in a safety rack as well. So if I fail, I fail. I don't want any help, nothing. And that's helped my strength as well, because when people are helping you out the whole time, especially if it's different people, you're always getting a slightly different experience.
Right, that's right. Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
So I've changed, and I thought, oh, it's to protect my shoulders. But actually, if you sit under the bar, you can take it out yourself. So things like that, being honest with yourself of what you can really do is an important part of powerlifting, I'd say.
Going back to the competition, when you hit the 185, which is the British record, right?
Yeah.
So when you're going for the third attempt, what made you choose 195? Because we've seen you do 195 here,
Yeah.
right? But only once or twice, or probably at the end,
Yeah.
tail end of your your training.
Yeah, it was always my plan to go 190.
Okay.
If 185 went well, I was just going to go 190. A guy was helping me. I just thought I was in a good, because I'd done well, I was in a good frame of mind, and I thought, again, I'd done 195 in here, same conditions, I'm in a good mood,
Right.
I'm going for 195. I'm going to match that. So I know now as well that there is, at the moment, it always changes, but in the moment there's no discrepancy between what I can lift in a gym and what I can lift on a world platform, which is good for my training, because it means that I am being very honest with myself. If you can, I think for everybody that's a fantastic thing, that if you can match in a gym to competition, that's where you want to be. I mean, if you can overperform, even better. But in technical bench pressing, it's a little bit harder. I think we were talking about this. I think in deadlifting,
Yeah, even deadlifting.
if you need it, you need something to win.
You probably could.
You can pull it out you can change. I think with deadlifting. I think with bench pressing it's harder. It's more technical. If you can do it in the gym and match it in a competition, I think you'd be very
That's
happy.
good. Yeah.
So basically, the stars were all aligned when you chose 195. You knew that you could hit it.
Yeah. And it was actually a worse lift than the one in the gym. My foot slipped a little bit, and I still
got it.
Still managed it. Interesting though, because this is the tough thing about powerlifting. Perhaps if I'd gone 197, the next step up, I'd have failed it. Now and then I would have walked around saying to everybody, I got 185.
Yeah.
So conditions are very small, as we've all found out. Anybody who's done it, if you don't get it, and you go back to the second one, it's a very different story for other people and for yourself,
Right.
So I've been able to walk around saying I PB'd, I smashed my personal best, but again it was fine margins. If I'd gone a little bit higher,
So you came back with just
I would have got something else, or or if so small margins of error, so you've got to get everything right. In
So is 195 now acknowledged by the GPPF?
No, because I compete for Hong Kong.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But is it at least a record in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I'll be a record in Hong Kong.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, 195.
195.
Yeah. I mean, the goal now is 200.
Wow,
200.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean, that's an obvious threshold to get through.
I want to ask. Ever since you started doing bench equip, right? Has your weight always increased as you age, or are you seeing some, gradual decline?
Well, I was gonna. I mean, use the word equipped. I was gonna sort of stay away from equipped, because that's going to be very unfamiliar to nearly just about everybody. So when I compete, I put on a special, extremely tight shirt, which can add anything between an extra 30 to 100 kilograms on your bench press.
Damn.
At competitive level, everybody's wearing these shirts, and they're very technical, depending on how much you weigh, how you wear it, depends on how much you can get out of it. Again, I've worked hard, I've changed my philosophy on what's the best shirt for me, and that's paid dividends. But for most Malaysian powerlifters, this is not something that they're familiar with or particularly want to get involved in yet.
Oh, Haris will, I think, inshallah. Right?
He should do.
He should.
He'd be very good. if you do go to bench pressing only, in my opinion, just bench pressing can get very boring. So the shirt
Adds
adds
a little bit of
Excitement.
variable that you can play with.
adds
Yeah.
some excitement.
Yeah.
The weights are heavier. There's more technical.
Yeah, I mean, putting it on is an excitement, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
very-
Exciting for the people helping you
yeah,
put
it's
on.
Very
It's
exciting.
a team
No,
sport.
it's the cleavage, man.
Yeah, the cleavage. I'd recommend a quip. Maybe
280
not.
bench, man.
Yeah,
That'll be good.
300, why not 300?
that's some people.
Oh.
Some people can add
Okay.
a lot to it, and the numbers are amazing.
Yeah.
At a high standard.
Yeah.
How much people can bench with these bench shirts.
I'd like to see Haris in a quick
Bench
bench.
shirt?
Yeah.
I think it would suit Harris because he's got a good structure integrity. The way you bench is very good. All he needs to do is get used to the shirt on top, not crushing it. Because what the shirt wants to do is
Okay,
crush
okay,
your
yeah,
body.
yeah, yeah.
So the technique is to keep that body position and not let the shirt crush it.
Or they might have like more suitable types of shirts for that for the amount of arch, right? It's not all the same. Like you mentioned.
No, you can get them. You can get them modified just to you. You can.
Okay, yeah.
They make them in America. America only, I think. You can send off your size, and they'll do a
Custom made.
custom made
Oh,
one
wow.
for you. Yeah, but they're not cheap. Over about 1,000 ringgit.
You're gonna claim it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna get it.
You,
Maybe in 10, 20 years. Or maybe when I'm M1, M2. We'll see.
Don't forget the receipt.
When you're old and knackered, you can you can join me.
Yeah.
speaking of old,
Yes. Okay.
That's a good segue.
This is what they really want me to talk about.
This is the whole thing.
Okay.
yeah.
So
Should you train if you are Andy's age?
yeah. So I'm 50.
Oh, you don't look 50. What's the secret?
Thank you.
He's the youngest looking 50-year-old,
Yeah.
according to IPS.
IPF approved.
Direct quote.
So I've carried on training. I've taken no breaks. That's one thing. I've had a marriage, 3 sons, change in countries, injuries, work changes, all of those things. I've never stopped. I know people, and everybody, again, everybody's different. Some people take time off, then they get back into it, then they take time off. I think you're just better carrying on with it, whatever. My wife would hate me for saying this, but after the birth of my second son on the Thursday, I competed on the Saturday. So consistency is important. And then it's interesting because Malaysia's like the UK has a problem. We have access to all the food we want. A lot of socializing is around food.
Yeah.
And therefore a lot of people are getting overweight. And it's a struggle not to be overweight, I think. You've got to fight it not to be overweight. And then people respond to that by doing a lot of cardio to counteract that. But I find that that's not a very efficient way of having the physique that you want to have. And the reason I say that is because often the carbs stay the same, and then the cardio just comes to meet it.
Yep.
So you have people eating regularly and a lot of carbs, and then doing a lot of cardio to try and counteract
Balance it out,
it.
yeah.
You're just doing the same thing. Just
And the physique you're going to get from that is maybe some weight loss,
yeah.
but that's not going to change the dynamic of your physique.
That's true.
All decent studies show that the best thing to do is operate your muscles regularly, because if you do that, your body will transform because your muscles will get stronger. You will naturally need more food and carbs anyway, and that will be offset, and your physique will develop better rather than just doing cardio. If we go back into the past and all cultures, irrespective of where, people worked or hunted. Even when agriculture took over from hunting and diets changed, people worked their whole bodies all their lives.
Yep.
Yep.
And they worked their bodies with physical labor.
Yep.
They
Right.
didn't go running
Yeah, I didn't hear
for
you.
a long period of time. Even if you go back to the hunting, they didn't run. It was
Yep.
fast
It was
walking.
fast, yeah.
The strength is the single most important ingredient for men or women of any age, but particularly over 40. Strength is the ingredient. And that doesn't mean having to perform, or you don't have to powerlift, but powerlifting is a great vehicle. I've
Yep.
seen people doing it of all ages. It's the way to keep the body that you want, because you keep everything strong and working. Random bouts of cardio won't make the necessary difference.
Yeah.
And there's loads of good young trainers around in Malaysia. You can
Okay.
One of them.
you can come to a gym, and a gym where they know what they're doing to lay the foundations at any age. Get a good trainer, good gym.
Yep.
Then you carry on in a nice, consistent approach, 3 or 4 times a week, with a decent diet. And at any age, you can transform your physique.
Yeah. 100%.
I'm
yeah.
pumped now. I feel like I want to live today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's amazing when I see people do it right, because I mean, I've been to gym, you know, in China and here, and if they do it right, they get great results.
Yeah.
And they take ownership of that experience, and they train, you know, good sets, and you can mix it up, different. You can play around with what kind of training works for you, and everybody's different, and
yeah.
everybody likes to do a mix. So some people will think, right, I'll do high reps, short breaks, high intensity, great. Other people get very much into the squatting. They want to squat and just do sort of maybe lower sets, a bit more. You can play around with all
Yeah.
that, but if you get good foundations, a good trainer, and then a good gym, any age, you're set away.
Yeah.
And then you can still, I mean,
Eat, yeah.
you can still eat as well. I always say to people, for me, eat what you want, just eat less of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Just cut it down a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
But still eat. If you want to eat chocolate, that's fine. Eat chocolate, but just don't eat so much.
It's only 3 packs at once.
I mean, it's easier said than done. Ever since the Worlds, I've been putting on weight. But without a doubt, and training's important. I mean, I go to a good gym in Iquim Park, and a lot of the people have personal trainers, and there's some excellent ones, and they know they are. But also, I see some bad,
Snaky ones.
God,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, I'm going back to the UK in 2 weeks, and I'll go to commercial gyms there, and I'll see some
That's it,
bad.
that's it,
Same
I'll
ones,
see
yeah.
some bad practice. This is not a cultural thing. But man, Asia, I've seen some worrying gym practice in my time. Like,
Care to share an example?
the bench press classic. Okay, to work the chest, you bring the bar to your chest. That works the pecs. Then halfway through it, your shoulders come into play, and then you finish off the
triceps,
movement
yeah.
with your arms, your triceps. It's a 3-part experience. So why do so many people take the bar halfway and take it back?
And go back, yeah.
Because they're not working a third of the thing. So 35% of the experience is cut straight away. And then what they do is add a bit more weight, and then goes
Make it
even
shorter.
What's that all about? And back to YouTube. You've only got to look at YouTube for 5 minutes for some expert to tell you, make sure it goes all the way
All the
down
way, yeah,
and
it's
all
right
the way
there,
back
yeah.
up. So why is everybody benching halfway down?
Just to clarify things, you can bench with a short stroke as long as you touch your chest
Yeah.
with it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Personal
yeah.
attack.
Yeah, it's so crazy stuff like that, and swinging stuff around. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I was a victim of it when I started training.
Yeah.
But you know, you got the swingers, the groaners. You can, I mean, in the gym,
Yeah.
groan.
Actually, I think we saw that yesterday because we had to do a delivery, and this guy was making a lot of noise with a pair of dumbbells, but they were just like 15 kilos, and he was acting like it's 180. He was like,
Yeah.
oh.
It is 100.
And he
yeah.
threw it down too, like in between his
Oh,
legs. He was
yeah.
doing presses.
Gym etiquette, yeah. You know, pack your stuff away after you leave it tidy. You're allowed to groan a bit.
Oh yeah, you would.
But if you're not, then avoid it. Full range of motion. So, one thing again, back to the old man stuff. Why you've invited me on. What I've also doing more and more is cutting out momentum, making that you're working the muscle and not the stuff around it. Again, I think this is something that comes from experience and old age because you've got less room for error.
Yeah, that's true.
I think if you're younger and you're using looser form and you're getting a bit of a swing, I think it's okay. Your tendons, your ligaments can take it, and your muscles still getting the
work.
right attention.
Yeah.
I think when you get older, there's less margin for error, and therefore there must be less concentration on weight, more concentration
The
on
movement, right?
technique, the
Yeah.
movement and form. Cut that extra stuff out.
Yeah, that's true.
And stuff, I tell people this, and I remember when I was young, started training, someone came up and told me this thing. They told it to me, and they're probably the age I am now, telling me when I was young, this simple thing. And I looked at them, and
What do you know, old man?
What are you saying?
Yeah, and I'm
Yo,
walking.
geezer, get outta
I
here.
know. I'm walking around now, and I go up to these people. I try and avoid it now, but sometimes I can't resist.
Yeah.
I go up to them and say this, and they just look at me and what? And the thing is muscle mind connection is so important, and that is you are concentrating on every rep on the muscle that you're working
Right.
for every exercise, but you say it and people don't know what you're talking about. But actually, for me recently, this is so important, and I've transferred this to my bench, and I was talking to you because it's the same thing. Is that shoulder retraction? You're concentrating on it when you're benching. So if you don't know already, this guy's a world-class bencher, and it's because because
Zealfit.
he does that exactly. It's not just bodybuilding, it's powerlifting as well. You keep the integrity, and when that bar is coming, you are concentrating on your pecs. You are you're getting the bar to meet it, and in that way he keeps his structure, and that's why he's such a good bencher. Whereas you see most people are just repping. They are not they're just focusing on getting the weight up and down. That's fine, but you won't make progress in the same way that if you are thinking
Think about it,
carefully,
yeah. With intent, right? Yeah.
carefully about everything that you're doing. Now, it's again harder for deadlifts, but you have to do
have
it.
to, yeah.
You're not pulling the weight. You are actually checking everything as you pull the weight. And again, young Malaysian powerlifters, and I keep saying young Malaysian powerlifters because nearly
There's no old.
there's no old
There's no
powerlifters in
old.
Malaysia.
Yeah.
They're all young, and I think they do that. They're videoing themselves and they're looking, and I would encourage you to carry that on. Think about how you're lifting it. And then when it comes to the smaller exercises that you should be doing, I know shoulders, biceps, everything, again,
Same thing.
cut the momentum out, concentrate on the muscle you're working, and I think you'll enjoy the workout more as well, and get really into the workout. I see also not so much powerlifters. I'm talking now about commercial gyms and every normal people that they're just going through the motions, and I think to myself, when those initial gains die down and you hit that plateau that everybody will hit, are you going to carry on? Because actually you haven't got that relationship between your mind and your body and your muscles, and maybe, just maybe, that the plateau hits, the boredom hits, the gains slow down, and you drift away.
Yep. Yeah.
So
I've experienced that. multiple times.
Yeah, and then
So-
people just start saying, "No, it's not for me." And
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I know everybody's going to ignore what I'm saying because I did when I heard it, but it's important.
then they'll turn into you later.
Yeah, and life will carry on.
So apart from the, I guess, the aesthetic or vanity side of lifting, what have you found has with lifting has benefited you when you look around like other people? Maybe what do you think, like mental alertness, the kind of stuff, or maybe even your health, or
As for me, it's pride in myself. I have a deep pride in my achievements. That they're all drug free, always have been drug free. I've never taken drugs. I've done it with a full-time job. I've done it with 3 sons who are hard work. The moving and everything. Once you do it on the platform, I think that's something. Even if you do it once, I think then you can have a lot of pride in yourself that you've achieved.
That's something.
And people can't take that away from you. Also, I'm a teacher, and the students love hearing the stories about it. They're very interested. It gives me an extra dimension as a teacher.
Get the school to buy the bench.
Love to, yeah.
Bench class.
Yeah, my sons like it. It brings an extra element to my relationship with my sons. That they're very proud that their dad competes.
Not just teaching and
No, not just teaching. And also
eat chocolates.
Yeah, they see a bit extra.
Yeah.
I haven't got a flash car or a flash motorbike. I don't have any flash hobbies. Apart from it, this is my thing, and it defines me in a way, and people know me from it,
Right.
and I think that's wonderful, and I think that's you can have that again, irrespective of culture, of age, of gender. You can also have ownership of that. You can be part of that, and I think also, to be honest, it's been less for me because since I moved from the UK, I've had to follow a pretty individual road. The powerlifting experience for me has not been a team thing because I've never competed and trained with a team. But I think an additional element is that powerlifting community that you can be part of.
Right.
I think, again, the Malaysian scene is extremely exciting. You've got a young group of lifters who are very good and committed. For MAP, they've got a fantastic president. And people supporting and other people, and if they carry it on for a long time, they will be part of a powerlifting family, and I hope that it carries on for their sake, because I think it's a real sociable sport. You're competing against yourself in many ways, but you're also competing perhaps against other countries. It's an opportunity because it's a niche sport that if you're decent, you can compete for your country. You can travel the world if you're committed to it, and you can see places that you never would have thought possible if you'd taken the powerlifting away.
Like Zealfit.
like
Zealfit.
Yeah, well, like Shah Alam. And
like Charlotte. It's a good place.
Let them know the location.
So the people on the fringe, I mean, you're a good example, actually. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you got a lot of talent for powerlifting with your deadlifting and your squatting, and so it'd be interesting. You're a classic case of someone who has every potential, if you want to stay in the sport, to get a group of friends, be consistent, carry it on. And do things and go to places that you may not thought possible.
Yep.
This is getting kind of philosophical, but since powerlifting has been with you so long, have you ever had reached a point where you felt like, oh man, I don't want to be reduced to this old guy who benches? You know what I mean? Like have you ever felt like that gets in the way?
Are you feeling like that, Horace?
I mean, I don't know.
You're only 23.
Sometimes, with friends who don't understand the sport.
I tell you what, I've had a long plateau of not making gains, and that tests you. the plateau is almost stubbornness has kept me in it. It's my mentality. I just won't quit. But it's tough. The weird thing is, I hit 50. I've competed on the world stage. I suddenly made gains in my equipped, and it's had a knock-on effect on my raw benching. And as I said to you on Monday, I cracked 160, got 162, and that's taken me 9 years.
Yeah.
So good things come to those who wait.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's for everybody. But you'll test yourself. I can't imagine a life without it.
Yeah.
You know, you never know what's going to happen, and you've got to take where you are. You've always got to take that and be happy with that.
Right.
No, for me, it's more of a part of my life now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And you're okay with that identity that people ascribe to you?
Yeah.
Or would you want to be like, hey, I want to be, I'm not just the Andy who benches, you know, I'm like...
No, I love that.
Oh, okay.
I have to put them right because they say, "Oh, you do the weightlifting."
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's sad.
Not exactly. I kind of lie on a bench.
Okay. Are you having an existential crisis?
No, not really, because I think because the people here, they don't, like,
Understand.
socially or culturally, when they see someone good at something, or really, really exceptional at something, they just start to, like, reduce them to that one identity.
Oh, I
And
see.
then they, like, oh, no, he's just a guy who's like, Faye, oh, he's a weightlifter.
Yeah, he's that
like,
weightlifting guy.
Yeah, weightlifting guy. It doesn't see Faye as a human, as a person, you know what I mean?
But that's not
a bad thing.
for me. It's not important. I mean, the most important opinion is yours, your own.
Yeah, no, so that's what I was asking
what I
him.
mean?
if he's
Well,
okay
no,
with
I
that.
mean, mate, you're not going to do it. And even as good as you are, you're not going to do it professionally. So you're always going to have something else in your life. This isn't going to define you. It's always going to be a hobby, even if you're a personal trainer who's brilliant at benching, which you can be, you know. And a lot of people out there are. You're still your family, your family and your job will ultimately be the main thing. This is a hobby. This comes. So I don't fear that. No, I mean
No, I guess what I was getting at is the people around you. Every time they see you, they'll ask, "Hey, how's the bench going on?" You know what I mean? Instead of, "Hey, how's your family?"
I think we've
how's your
pushed it.
kids?"
Yeah.
You pushed it too much. We're sorry.
no, God,
We'll talk about squats now.
I want them to talk about it more.
You know what?
I want them to talk about it more.
Oh, okay,
Usually-
okay, that's interesting.
I would too.
I think it's a sense of pride, right? I mean, if you're
yeah.
able to, I mean, like this guy, 180 kg
180 kg
bench. That to me is like
185,
something that
not
I would be
official.
proud of. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't care whatever people say about how I bench or things like that.
yeah, it's a niche sport. It's not a very exciting sport. It will always be you as as a family person and as a job that will define you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I look. It's interesting. I look at you. You are two classic cases.
Yeah.
You're like Exhibit A and B.
There's no exhibit C here.
I'll come to you in a bit. Well, no,
He's the
may-
one asking
well,
you
no,
about
maybe,
your bench.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, here's the extras.
You're all maybe examples of what we've been talking about because there's so much potential in all of you that. It was being quite philosophical today, but I think there's a knock-on.
Good,
So,
yeah.
I mean, I've seen you all in operation. I mean, I have my own views on what I think's best for you. That's probably
Yeah.
not what you think, but I mean, I've said to you before, you have for the three unequipped lifting, you have a huge amount of potential, and it's up to you whether you're going to follow those factors that's going to keep you going. We all know what a great bench presser you are. You could go into. I feel you could go into the world stage as a bench presser, as equipped and unequipped.
Yeah.
And that could be your thing. But again, you've got to find your own route.
Yeah.
And your own journey. And again, we talk about slightly older, but I know you're listening to what I have to say, and you are. It's interesting. The difference for you is that you are professionally wrapped up in all this. So the dynamics are different for you. For me, it's a hobby, and I can put it to one side
Right.
and park it and get back to something that's very different. For you and your business, the two are interlinked.
Yeah.
So that
every
creates a different dynamic. So for you, it's more interesting, I feel.
Yeah.
It is.
You sure you don't just park it?
Yeah.
Park the.
Probably
I
parked.
can park it anywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else you guys want to ask?
I think that
No,
covers
man.
everything.
Yeah, we've gone about an hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
Would you believe it?
I haven't stopped talking.
Yeah. That's good. So less.
Yeah. So I think we'll just end it there.
Yeah.
I don't think you're on social media. If anybody wants to find you,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Facebook. Facebook's the best place.
Facebook's
okay.
okay.
Yeah. So do you want to share that with our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, Andy Howard. The photograph is of bench pressing, so that's the best.
yeah, so you would know.
That's the best way
Yeah.
to find it. Yeah. I'll accept any friends
Yeah.
within reason.
Within reason.
So thank you, Andy, for coming on, and
pleasure.
congratulations again on your
195.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All
Yeah.
right.
And you're welcome.
All right. Thanks, Andy.
All right, guys. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so
15.
much for
Thank you.
listening.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
See ya.
Hi, if you're interested to be on the podcast, send an email to info@zealfit.com.my. Alternatively, you can just give me a call at 012-2000-361. We can talk about anything. If you want to promote your products, if you want to promote yourself, bring it on. See you on the show.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn the notifications on. If you like the video, hit the like button and leave a comment. We're also on Spotify, Instagram, and Facebook. The links are in the description. See you guys in the next episode. Bye.